The screen is completely black. A faint sound of whispers curls around the silence, like secrets spoken in the dark. Suddenly, sparks of light flicker in the distance, tiny bursts of magic that dance and vanish before they can be fully seen. The darkness swallows them, leaving behind only a haunting echo of laughter low, distorted and unsettling. A sudden flash cuts through, broken pieces of memories, familiar faces from the past season, but twisted as if viewed through cracked glass. The sound of a heavy door creaking open shakes the silence, and a sharp glow leaks out, painting the dark with an eerie shimmer. Just before it disappears again, a single phrase hangs in the air. The magic you thought you knew was only the beginning. The darkness breaks into a slow-moving fog that stretches across the screen. The mist curls and shifts as though alive, swallowing the empty streets of Waverly in silence. Footsteps echo against the stone, steady but heavy as a lone, shadowed figure steps into view. The figure's face is hidden beneath a hood, their long cloak dragging across the wet ground. They pause beneath a flickering streetlight, and for a moment the faint shimmer of a wand gleams from their hand. The wand pulses, but not with the warm glow of safe magic. Instead, it burns red, sharp, and unstable, as though holding back a storm. The light flickers against the mist, casting strange shapes across the walls, shapes that almost look like hands reaching out. The fog thickens, carrying whispers that rise and fall, voices that don't belong. They repeat fragments of words as if calling out warnings or maybe taunts. Suddenly, the figure stops and lifts the wand. The glow grows brighter, forcing the mist to break apart, revealing an old doorway buried within the brick wall of the alley. The wood is ancient, cracked, and scarred with strange marks that pulse faintly as if alive. The figure places a trembling hand against the surface, and the sound of a heartbeat echoes faintly through the silence. Not their heartbeat, but the door's. The marks spread outward like veins of fire, lighting up the wall with a dangerous beauty. The ground trembles as the door creaks open, revealing a swirling darkness beyond. It is not simply an empty room. It is a void that seems to breathe, pulling the light inward. The whispers grow louder, almost unbearable, and hidden within them is the faint echo of a scream. For just a moment, the screen flashes with distorted images, a hand gripping a wand that cracks under pressure, a girl silhouette running through shadows, a spell sparking out of control, flames rushing upward, eyes glowing a dangerous shade of gold. They vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only the sound of the door closing shut. Back on the street. The figure lowers the wand, the light dimming until only the faint glow of the streetlight remains. The camera lingers on the figure's hand, trembling slightly, the skin marked with a faint sigil that seems to burn into their flesh. The mark pulses once, twice, then fades back into silence. The fog begins to move again, swallowing the figure, until nothing remains but the empty street. The whispers fade too, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than before. Just as it seems the scene is closing, the faintest sound breaks through again, the same distorted laughter from the beginning, echoing across the darkness, promising that something has returned. A single candle burns in the darkness. Its flame trembles, as if afraid of being seen, its glow stretching across walls covered with runes scratched into the stone. The air feels heavy, each breath slow, as though the room itself resists the presence of life. A hand reaches out of the shadows and hovers above the flame, fingers twitching with quiet anticipation. The skin is pale, scarred by faint glowing lines that crawl like veins beneath the surface. The flame flares suddenly, reacting not to wind but to power, and in that instant, the room shifts. The walls bend, the marks pulse, and the air hums. With unstable magic, the camera lingers on the scratches etched across the stone. They are not random. They form a pattern, a circle that seems incomplete, broken deliberately, as if sealing away something meant to be forgotten. The silence shatters with a sudden crash of metal. Chains rattle in the background, unseen, yet their sound fills the chamber with urgency. The candlelight flickers again, stretching tall before extinguishing itself, throwing the room into complete darkness. For a beat, all is silent. Then from the void comes a voice. It is not spoken but whispered directly into the mind, low and layered with tones that do not belong to any one person. You cannot hold back what was promised. The shadows will always claim their price. The camera glides across the room, showing glimpses in the dark, an ancient book resting on a pedestal, its cover torn and bound by straps of iron. Symbols glow faintly across its surface, struggling to contain what stirs inside. As if sensing the presence of the unseen figure, the book shudders, its bindings creak. The air around it vibrates with the sound of something alive, something waiting to be released. A hand, the same scarred hand from before, hovers over the book. The fingers hesitate, they twitch, they tremble. Then they pull back, as though even the figure dares not touch it. Suddenly, the chamber floods with a red glow as the runes on the walls ignite all at once, burning brighter and brighter, until the room looks like it has caught fire. The chains rattle louder. The whispers return, overlapping, too many voices to understand. Some cry out, some laugh. Some chant words not meant to be spoken. The book trembles violently, its straps pulling against the force inside. One by one, they snap. A burst of energy explodes outward, shaking the room, making the stones crack. The figure stumbles back, their hood falling slightly, revealing only a jawline and lip stents. Locked in determination but shadowed with fear, the camera shifts again, pulling away from the chamber to reveal flashes of the outside world. The streets of Waverly are no longer calm. Strange lights flicker across the rooftops. Spells spark and collapse mid-air, as though the balance of magic itself has begun to tear. Shop windows rattle, shadows crawl against the glass, forming shapes that almost resemble faces pressing outward. Somewhere, far in the distance, the faint cry of a young voice breaks through. "Run!" But the sound cuts off suddenly. As though swallowed by the air, the scene pulls back into the chamber once more, where the book now lies open on its pedestal. Its pages turn on their own, glowing red, the words rearranging themselves like living ink. A shadow rises from the pages, twisting, formless, stretching until it nearly fills the room. The scarred hand lifts again, wand trembling, but no spell leaves it. The figure's body shakes as though drained by just standing before the presence. The shadow bends forward, its form wrapping like smoke around the figure's shoulders, brushing against their ear. And then the whispers stop. For a single moment, silence returns. The shadow speaks clearly for the first time, its voice smooth, almost gentle. "The door is open." The screen cuts to black, leaving only the sound of chains snapping one final time. Asterisk, the black screen lingers longer than expected, just enough to let the silence feel like a weight pressing down. Then, without warning, light bursts in, not warm or comforting, but cold and silver, pouring through a shattered stained glass window. Dust swirls through the glow, catching fragments of color, crimson, emerald, violet. The shards on the floor gleam like broken jewels, scattered in patterns that look almost deliberate. The camera moves slowly, gliding across the fragments until it stops on one piece reflecting an image not present in the rumen eye, golden and glowing, staring back. The shard quivers and then cracks under an unseen pressure, splintering. The reflection into nothing. The sound of footsteps breaks the tension, more than one. At least 3 shadows stretch across the floor as cloaked figures enter the ruined hall. Their movements are slow, purposeful, as though they know they are being watched, but are unafraid of it. They speak in low tones, their words hushed yet sharp, carried by the echoes of the broken chamber. Each voice is distinct, one trembling with doubt, another steady and commanding, the last playful, mocking. Though their faces remain hidden beneath hoods, their presence is undeniable. Allies, perhaps, or enemies bound by a fragile necessity. The tallest figure kneels near the fragments of glass, brushing fingers across the floor. The silver glow reacts instantly, surging upward and sparking into symbols in the air. They hover for a moment, shifting and twisting like puzzle pieces trying to lock into place. The second figure steps forward, their voice steady but colder. "The seal is weakening." "Faster than we thought?" The third figure laughs softly, a sound unsettling in its amusement. Good, let it unravel. What's hidden deserves the light. The first figure rises, and though their face is hidden, the subtle tilt of their head suggests tension. There is no agreement here, only fragile patience. The air trembles again, and for a split second, the silver glow collapses, replaced by a surge of red. The shadows of the three figures stretch unnaturally long across the hall, twisting into monstrous shapes that do not match their human forms. One has wings, another claws, the last horns curling upward into smoke. The light flickers back to silver, and the figures stand still as though nothing happened. Though their silence reveals they felt it too, the camera drifts to the far corner of the hall where a wand lies abandoned on the ground, broken in two. Its pieces pulse faintly with the last sparks of energy, unstable and fading. As the camera lingers, faint whispers seep out from the fractured wood, voices of those who once wielded it, begging for release or warning of what's to come. The figures notice. The trembling one hesitates, stepping backward, but the mocking voice cuts through the tension. Do you feel it? The past never dies here. It only waits to be used again. The silence grows heavier, broken only by the sound of dripping water from the shattered ceiling. Then, suddenly, a distant boom shakes the ground. Dust falls from the rafters, sparks of unstable magic ripple across the floor, and somewhere outside the hall, a cry echoes not of pain, but defiance. The three figures turn sharply, cloaks swirling. The tallest one raises their hand, the air bending around their palm. For an instant, the camera sees beyond the cloak eyes glowing with determination, but clouded with something darker, fear. Guilt, or perhaps both. The camera pulls away from them and focuses instead on the hall itself. Symbols carved into the walls glow faintly, then vanish. The broken glass stirs, sliding across the floor as though pushed by invisible hands. The air thickens, heavy enough to hear. And then, carved across the far wall, a sigil begins to appear. Not scratched or painted, but burned directly into the stone from within. The figures stare at it in silence as the mark glows brighter, brighter, until the entire hall is filled with searing light. When the glow fades, the sigil remains, pulsing like a heartbeat. And from its center, a hairline crack forms. Not in the wall itself, but in reality. The crack stretches, spiderwebbing outward, revealing glimpses of something else on the other side. A forest burning with blue fire. A tower collapsing in silence. A girl running through shadows, clutching something in her hands, a voice crying out, "Stop her before it's too late." The crack seals as quickly as it appeared, leaving only scorched stone in its place. The three figures stand motionless, their silence thicker than any words. At last, the commanding voice speaks, low and steady. "We don't have much time." The screen cuts to black. Only the sound of a heartbeat remains, asterisk. The heartbeat grows louder. Each thump echoes like a drum in the void, shaking the black screen. Until the darkness itself seems to crack apart. A sudden burst of light tears through, revealing a storm of magic raging across Waverly. Buildings tremble under waves of shifting energy. Street lamps flicker and explode, and the air is alive with sparks that refuse to settle. The sky above twists with rolling clouds, streaked in colors that don't belong: blue fire, violet lightning, rivers of gold unraveling across the stars. For a moment, the entire town feels less like a place and more like a living spell breaking apart at the seams. Amidst the chaos, flashes of scenes collide into one another. A duel erupts in the middle of a collapsing alley, wands clashing and throwing off bursts of unstable energy. Each strike cracks the walls further, bricks shattering as fire consumes the shadows. Sparks rain down on the fighters' cloaks, illuminating their faces for only a heartbeat at a time, faces half hidden in fear, fury, or determination. A hand reaches out for help but is yanked back into the smoke. Another figure runs across the rooftops, a shadow chasing close behind, its form bending and stretching like liquid darkness, faster than any spell can stop. The camera shifts, pulling the audience into another moment. A sigil burns on the ground, larger than any drawn before, carved into the cobblestone itself by forces unseen. It pulses with power, glowing brighter and brighter until the stones split apart beneath it. From the crack rises a surge of energy. Shaped like a figure, its outline human, but its body made of shifting shadows and flames, it does not walk. It glides, pulling the air toward it with each movement. The ground withers beneath its touch, and every light nearby dims as though terrified of its presence. Cut to a dim, narrow hallway inside an abandoned building. One character clutches a glowing crystal against their chest, its light shaking wildly as if trying to escape. Their eyes are wide with fear, darting down the corridor as footsteps echo closer and closer. The crystal hums louder, spilling colors across the walls, painting sigils that don't belong to this world. Before they can react, a hand shoots from the darkness, grabbing their arm, pulling them into the shadows. The crystal drops, rolling across the floor, still glowing. The camera follows the glow until it stops, then flicks to black dot. The next image erupts in sound and fury. A wand shatters mid-spell, bursting into fragments that spin like molten glass. The energy release slams into the wielder, throwing them backward through the air. Their screen cuts through the storm, but it is swallowed by the thunder above. Sparks rain down around them, sparks that burn brighter than fire, each one leaving marks on the stone. Ancient symbols crawling across the walls as though the world itself is trying to warn them. The montage grows faster, the scenes cutting sharper. A face illuminated by golden eyes, whispering words that twist the air. A sigil on a door glowing until it bursts into flame. Two figures gripping each other's arms, not in friendship but in betrayal, one forcing the other into the dark. A shadow with no form breaking into dozens of smaller shapes, swarming across the rooftops. A girl screaming as a chain of red light binds her to the ground. The forest from before, engulfed in blue fire, trees collapsing as if consumed by silence rather than heat, then silence. The storm freezes. The screen lingers on one final image, the crack in reality, wider now, pulsing like a living wound. Through it, something massive stirs, unseen but undeniable. The edges of the tear drip with light, each drop falling like molten gold before vanishing into smoke. The camera pulls closer, closer, until the darkness on the other side fills the screen dot, and then a whisper. Clear, haunting, almost tender. Darkness always finds its way back. The words fade, and with them, so does the image. All that remains is the title card, glowing against the void. Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. Season 2, coming soon. The screen flickers once, as if resisting closure, and then cuts to black.